BD, how are you today?
Hey Mary, doing well, and you?
Great.
All right.
We are here in my hometown of Ojai, and this piece of property that you live on is so amazing and beautiful, and every time I pass it, which is a lot, I just admire it, and I also admire the row crops that you have here. And the name of your farm is Earth Trine Farm?
Right, it's Earth Trine Farm.
And how did you come up with that name?
When we started the farm, which originally we had in Carpinteria, and we still have that farm, my family, like now I have 4 kids, but originally with my oldest son who's a Taurus, and I'm a Virgo, and my wife's a Capricorn, those are the 3 earth signs, and so we formed like an earth triune or a trine, and so it's like the harmony of earth energy.
Oh, that is so interesting. I'm an Aquarian and my birthday's this Saturday.
All right. Happy birthday coming up.
Thank you.
15th.
Thank you. I know, and while the rest of the country's in a deep freeze, it is absolutely so warm and beautiful here today, so we're so lucky. So tell me about Earth Trine. How many acres do you farm, and what are you growing right now?
Right now we're farming about 12 acres net here in Ojai, and then we also have a farm in Carpinteria where we've got about 5 acres.
Wow, so 12 acres here. That's pretty substantial.
Yeah, it's almost too much for a small farm, and not enough for a large farm.
And what are you growing right now? It's February. We've had a very, very mild winter. We had a few cold nights, but what is the weather doing to your crops, and what are you growing now?
Well, right now, I must say, like, we've got the nicest farm we've ever had during the winter, because it's just one beautiful day after another.
Congratulations.
Usually things are getting battered by storms, too much rain, mud and crust and slugs and snails and holes, and you're making a million excuses. Now everything looks great. People are going to get spoiled, I think. But we're growing lettuce, like about a dozen varieties of lettuce, and all the bitter greens, kale, chard, collards, dandelion, things like that. And then assorted mixed vegetables and culinary herbs as well. And then we just finished our Valencia orange harvest. We've got 4 acres of oranges. And we interplant in the orchard as well to take advantage of the little clearings in between the trees, the rows of trees. And in Carpinteria, we grow a lot of the same things. But during the summer, it's a mild climate. So there we can grow lettuce and kale and arugula all summer when it's too hot here in Ojai. So we're kind of taking advantage of all the little microclimates.
So how long have you been farming, and what inspired you to farm?
Well, I've been farming since 1982. And then before that, I started with my first market gardens in 1974. And looking back on it, I would say that my childhood growing up in Buffalo, New York, shoveling snow,
You and I are neighbors. I'm from upstate New York.
All right.
And now we both are in Ojai.
Exactly.
Did we do the right thing or what?
Yeah, but see, I came out here because the winter after I graduated from college in 1972, that first winter wasn't harsh enough, whereas people come out because normally they have a harsh winter. But mine, you know, I like doing outdoor things, and you just couldn't enjoy a winter where it would freeze and thaw and snow and freeze and thaw and mud, and it just wasn't fulfilling. And so I came out to visit friends in Isla Vista, where UCSB is, and they were all surfers. But growing up in Buffalo and shoveling snow, I wasn't like the avid surfer at that point. And so I met some people that were gardening and just dedicated all my time to gardening. And then we had surpluses. As anybody who has like a little garden knows, there's too much of something. Cherry tomatoes or zucchini or mint or something.
And did you like the feeling? Because I know what it's like when you grow something and then you share it with your community, and how it makes you feel that you are providing subsistence to them. Was that part of it? Did it give you this feeling of just wanting to provide for people?
Yeah, I grew into that. Originally, I was fascinated by how, like, the germination of the seeds, just watching bare soil come to life with things that I had planted. And then the harvest, the beauty, You know, sometimes you get lucky and everything grows in perfect harmony. And back then with the gardens, especially if you have a garden, you can have a better chance of living in harmony with nature. On a
Right.
big farming level, you know, you're having to control nature quite a bit.
Right.
It can, you know, every last pest and predator, and, you know, you can just beat your head against the wall
I know,
trying
it's
to
so
control
ironic.
everything.
They're big, but they're more vulnerable
Yeah.
to the elements. So, speaking of that, your 12 acres is big in this area to farm in Ojai, and you are farming organically, and you have a biodynamic farm. And why is that important to you?
Well, we live on the farm and we feed our neighbors and our community, and the thought of using chemicals around where I live and exposing my workers to it or exposing the community to it, it's just not consistent with my vision of life and my role in society in general.
Right. Now that you are definitely organic, what are some of the difficulties, or it's I know that organic farming is not necessarily as easy as conventional farming. So what are some of the things that you have to struggle with being an organic farmer?
Well, we don't use herbicides, for which all of our customers are completely thankful. Now, like, although a lot of our labor expense is spent taking care of the weeds and the pests
So
as
would you say
well.
that's your number one struggle is the weeding,
Yeah, the
and
weeding.
and the intensive labor that it takes to?
Yeah, it's the intensive labor that's required, but it's so worth it. And people are now so appreciative that the thought of using any of those chemicals is just repulsive.
Right.
And, you know, I feel glad that I can provide something that is clean. Sometimes people complain, you lose a few customers because something might have a hole in it occasionally.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, there's still people that look at that and
There's people that think that nature has to be perfect.
yeah, they're under the illusion that everything has to be like a cover girl, you know.
I see you at the farmers market in Ojai on Sunday mornings, and I see you talking and interacting with your customers, which is wonderful. And how does that make you feel when you're standing there and you've got your harvest out there in front of you and you're interacting with the community?
Yeah, that's the best feeling of all, because people come to the farmers market, of course, to get the assortment of produce and the freshness, but a lot of them come just to know the farmer and to have them answer questions or give them suggestions, or they just like the experience of it. And anytime you can be in a direct conversation like we are now, there's just so much more you can get out of your connection. Just like being in a small classroom versus a 800-person lecture hall. You know, that's just like, it's almost like homeschooling for shoppers.
Right, because I'm sure they have so many questions for you, and you're at the beginning of the food chain. You're the farmer, you're growing the crops, and I being on the end of the food chain in my kitchen, it is truly a wonderful feeling when I can say, oh, I got this from BD's stand this morning, and I got this from Steve Sprinkle, and to know where your food was actually grown. So.
Yeah, I mean, we have, Steve and I, we have urban farms. People drive by our farms or bike or run or skateboard by our places all the time. And so they see it, so they get the added benefit of really having a connection with their produce, because they see it, they see our scarecrows, they love them, and they see what extremes we go to try to keep their products pure.
I drive by all the time, like I said, and it does. I always look over here and envy how gorgeous this piece of property is with the mountains in the background and all the different row crops and so on. So this winter you said it was such a mild winter, but what about water? What's happening with your water supply?
Well, see, that's the issue right now, is we don't know. We don't have a well here, and I understand a lot of wells are going dry, the ones that aren't drilled deep enough. And so it's hard to perceive of a day like today being like a winter disaster, like, but on the level of what other people are experiencing around the country. It's not an ice storm. It's not a flood. People aren't driving off the road, except if they're driving down the beach, the freeway, staring at the ocean and going, whoa, and then forget what they're doing. But this is potentially a disaster. It's just hard to perceive it like that.
Right.
So
When it's so beautiful. I'm seeing all your workers, and every farmer, especially organic farmers, you have help. And what can you tell us do you have some particular foreman or harvester that has been with you for a long time that you'd like to mention?
well, at this point, it's very egalitarian. It's almost the ideal setup at this farm right here, because there was a foreman, kind of, it kind of evolved that way. But now the work and the responsibilities are like really evenly delegated, and which is ideal because people, the workers, don't feel like they're just campesinos, out there doing the same redundant
You're a
tasks.
team, it's a partnership.
We're a team, and they have respect and dignity. They know that I really appreciate them and give them responsibility. Some of them deal directly with chefs,
Wonderful.
and so the chefs will call them rather than calling me and then me telling them what to pick, like restaurants here in Ojai.
Right.
Others take the responsibility to drive to the irrigation store, get things that we need, and
So you're all sharing in what makes a farm work.
yeah.
So that's wonderful. So I said that we can find your produce at the Ojai Farmers Market on Sunday.
Right.
But you're mentioning restaurants, that you supply a lot of restaurants. What are some of the restaurants and what are some of the other farmers markets where we could find your farm stand? And
Here in Ojai, Monte Grappa, Osteria Monte Grappa, they come over and pick things up.
Tammy, I love Tammy.
Tammy's great. And Stefano, I've known him since the late 1980s.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
They're really into the produce and getting things as fresh as possible. So it's
And
not
very local. They want
They're local. Yep.
to support their local farmers.
They come over here sometimes twice a day, and they've even come over 3 times a day.
Can I come over?
Yeah. Open a restaurant.
And some of the other farmers markets, do you?
Well, we sell at the Tuesday afternoon Santa Barbara Farmers Market and the Saturday morning Santa Barbara Farmers Market.
Okay.
And all the restaurants in Santa Barbara, all the ones that are within a mile or two of the farmers market, and there are a lot.
Okay.
They all shop there at the
Nice.
market, not just with us, but with the other farmers. Because, the seasonal, local, non-fixed menu concept is just taken over. Everybody's into it
So
now.
you're seeing a real trend with the demand for what
Yes.
you grow, and organic and local. Is that what you're?
That's what I'm saying, yeah. We paid our dues back in the 80s because I've been doing farmers markets since 1978, which is, back before people didn't even
Wow.
think on that wavelength. There were produce stands along 101 in Prunedale, or,
Right.
things like that. but-
Even since I've lived in Ojai, I moved here 14 years ago, and I would go to the farmers market, and it was just that front little parking lot
Right.
area. And now the whole back parking lot is filled, and we've got bread makers, and we have basket weavers, and we have all these different
Right.
stands at our farm. So it's really nice to see. Is there one last thing you'd like to say about your farm and why you love what you do so much?
Well, one thing I wanted to mention about who gets our food, if you're between the ages of 15 and 18, you could beg your parents to send you to Thatcher School or to Oak Grove School.
And pay $50,000 a year?
Because they both get
Great.
produce every week. Thatcher fills a truck every week and they call, what do you have? Oh, it's okay, I'll take a case of this, 2 cases of that.
And that is
And
so
Oak Grove
important
also.
to have our children, and I'm so glad you brought that up, is to give them nutritional food right off the farm, because so many schools end up feeding the students processed food. And so there's also a new movement with farm to school and providing schools with fresh, whole food and slow cooking. And so I'm on the board of Food for Thought Ojai,
Oh, yeah.
and that is their mission, is
Right.
to increase the nutrition of the food in schools. So I'm glad to hear that you're doing that.
Yeah.
And do you have a website where we could find you?
We don't have a website, at least
don't?
not that I know of. Somebody said that, oh, we found you on your website. I didn't do it, but everybody wants to do one for me, and maybe somebody did, but I just want to do my work, my part of it, and I feel like I can get my message out through the produce, through my relationship with my workers and the community, the people that I provide, because you can only do so much.
Right,
And so that's my approach.
right.
Now, when we got this farm, we really wanted to do it right. So I do a lot of cover cropping, composting, trying to build up the soil so it's healthy, and we spread minerals, all sorts of different kelp and rock powders, and so it's rich, it's balanced nutrition, and it's an urban farm. We're right in the city where we feed everybody around us.
Well, whatever you're doing is right, because the soil looks so abundant and rich, and it's very prolific. I wish that everyone could see how many different varieties of lettuce, and you've got broccoli and flowers. It's just really beautiful and prolific.
Yeah, it's a constant learning experience too. I don't feel like I'm a know-it-all, and every year the weather's different, and the trends of what people want change. A lot of people trust us now, which is good, because I've been doing it for
They
a long
want
time.
Brussels sprouts, don't they? Every time I go to
Yeah, right.
every time I go to a restaurant, they're frying Brussels sprouts, and I always get them. And so I know which ones have the best now. I'm really becoming a Brussels sprout connoisseur.
Yeah, but yeah, you are at the mercy of different trends. An article shows up in a paper, and everybody comes wanting something, and maybe you don't have it, and so, wow, the demand is intense. So then you plant it, and by next year when it's ready, that's not what they're thinking of anymore.
Well, thank you so much,
You're
Beebe.
welcome.
It was a pleasure
All right, Mary.
talking to you, and keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing, and without people like you, we wouldn't have food on our table, and we wouldn't have all these amazing different kinds of lettuces that I'm seeing appear everywhere. And it's an art in itself. Farming is an art in itself, and you're the artist, and this is your palette. So thank you.
All right, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.